beast was squealing in my prison cell, and that old triangle going tingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal. To begin the morning with the water boiling, get out of bed, clean up yourself, and that old triangle goes jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal. On a fine spring evening, the lag lay dreaming, the seagulls beaming high above the wall, and that old triangle goes a jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal. The screw was peeping, and the lag lay sleeping as he lay there weeping for his good gal Sal, and that old triangle and jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal. In the female prison, there are 70 women, and it's with all of them where I'd like to dwell. And that old triangle.
Hello, hello. Just waiting for that line. How you doing? How you doing out there? You remember how to read? Did you read Sleeping Beauties? 28% of you did. That's pretty good. We'll take it. Sold. What in the Toontendo was that song? That was the Old Triangle classic Irish folk song, as performed by Bob Dylan and the band in 1967 in Woodstock, New York. That song and that last verse you heard was referenced in part 1 of the book. Who's excited for Timothy Shalamala Ding Dong playing Bob Dylan this Christmas? I am. It probably won't do that part. It was after the motorcycle accident. Anyways, we're not talking about Bob Dylan. We're talking about Sleeping Beauties by Stephen King and Owen King. A book with a really great idea. A better idea than a book, let's say. We'll see if you agree. Those of you who read it. I listened to a brief interview with Stephen and Owen King after the audio. So I half read and half listened to this book. And the audiobook was pretty good. The person doing it cared, you know? I love this book, fight me. So even among Stephen King fans, this isn't a particularly well-liked or critically acclaimed book. I haven't read a lot of Stephen King, full disclosure. The only other Stephen King I've read was The Shining, which I liked quite a bit. I loved the movie The Shining, and I loved the book. That is very different. So this was only my second time reading King. The other book on my short list, because Christine's uncle told me I should read it, and funny coincidence, I noticed some people on the Discord talking about it as well, is the book he wrote about JFK and time travel, which I think the title is just the date of JFK's assassination, which is November 11th, 1963? No, November 5th, 1963? Something like that. 11/22/63 is the book. You're reading that now. Interesting. Okay. I do want to read that. Although, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Stephen King's writing style. He's I find him very easy to read. And, but it's not, I mean, my main takeaway from the book, and my main criticism, I guess you could say, is that it's not very deep or introspective about the very interesting idea anchoring the story. So the way Stephen and Owen is Stephen King's youngest son, I think, who is also a writer. Two of his sons are writers. I think this is his first time writing a collaboration with his son, or that son anyway. And the way they explained it is that, you know, when they get together, all these nerdy horror writers, they just pitch ideas to each other. So this son had the idea for the book. He said, what if women all over the world just all fell asleep at the same time? What would happen to society? And Stephen King thought, wow, that's a great idea. And his kid's like, yeah, you should write it as a book. And ultimately that resulted in them co-writing a book. They seem to think people will really care about like who wrote what section, so they went to great lengths to like explain that they rewrote each other's work, so it is very much a collaborative work. But I think a lot of Stephen King fans maybe don't like it and see it not as only Stephen King's fault it's not good. Maybe I'm projecting something there or overstepping, but yeah. It was not very him, so I haven't read enough Stephen King to be able to say that. But that seemed like, if you look at the Stephen King subreddit and stuff, I mean, people are just generally sort of critical of the book for a few reasons. I'm sleeping right now. Oh yeah? Are you in a cocoon? Anyway, so just to explain the plot a little bit more, the whole story is told from the perspective of this very small town, middle America, rural, poor area, Appalachia, dueling, what's the state? Dueling, not Wisconsin. Wyoming? I just finished the book this morning. I should remember these details. And a lot of the story is told from the, like, there's too many characters in this book. You know, sometimes a book goes to like great lengths to show how everyone's kind of connected, like, and there's kind of like this passing ships in the night, like, oh, that person drove down the street and they didn't notice that other person. Then the next chapter is about the person they just didn't cross paths with. Like, I get it. You're trying to show how everyone's, everyone's percolating in the same sort of space. But it felt like they were just like, thought they were being really clever with it when it didn't really do a lot. West Virginia? People are saying West Virginia or Kentucky. Wyoming's not it's not Wyoming. I want to say West Virginia. That sounds right. Anyway, so like, I guess your protagonists are Clint, the psychologist who works at the female prison, and his wife Lila, who is the police chief of this small town. Sorry, this music has lyrics. I need to stop that. No vocals, please. And their relationship's struggling a bit because Clint is like a really decent guy and everything, but he's not really open and honest about, I don't know, his thoughts and feelings, mostly about his childhood with his wife, who feels somewhat betrayed because of this, that he won't be open and vulnerable about that side of himself. And he wanted a swimming pool and she didn't. That's a big deal in the book. And yeah, she's the police chief while all this is going down. I guess simultaneous to... So they wake up one day and all the women just start... If a woman falls asleep, like a cocoon starts like enwrapping her and she goes into a state of hibernation. And very quickly people realize you should not wake these women up, because if you wake the women up, they go feral and attack whoever woke them up in a female rage. And simultaneous to this, some woman shows up in the middle of in the woods close to their small town, where a magic tree sort of appears with some magical nature-like creatures and beings and whatnot. And this woman ends up, kills a couple drug dealers and ends up at the women's prison for observation, but becomes clear to people that she is some otherworldly being who is there as a sort of like test for the genders. The whole idea is that basically to very quickly get to the end of the story, spoiler alert if you want to read this, she is sort of there to prove that men without women will devolve into like their most base instincts of violence and aggression. And she ultimately gives the women, when they fall asleep, they end up in this like upside down Stranger Things kind of other world where the men aren't, but they're living lives in this sort of alternate reality of their town, just without men. And the culmination or the climax of the story is she gives them the opportunity to decide whether or not they want to come back to the world with men. Yeah, they're in a sort of living dream scenario. The conflict going on in Man World and what's going on in Man World is that very quickly it devolves into ignorant, overly confident, bad men fighting each other. Clint, who is at the prison, yeah, men boo. It is a little men boo book. It's a men boo kind of book. It's a little comical how quickly the male society devolves into just burning the cocooned women alive and basically shooting rocket launchers at each other and all that jazz. Again, the book feels very small, and this is one thing I didn't love about it. And it's intentional. I just found it frustrating that the story is all told within the context of this small town. So like this isn't a book about like big ideas about what society would look like without women, which is what I was kind of hoping it would be, at least a little bit. It's more about like just this very narrow segment of society. Like what's a good like it comes up like how the guys in town can't get good pie anymore because the women aren't around, you know? Like that's something that is focused on a bit. More than like, oh, I guess we won't be procreating anymore. Or what does it mean to have a genderless society? Like, you know what I mean? This isn't a very thoughtful book about these ideas. And no, pie is not a euphemism. They're just at a diner and they're like, I guess we don't have good pie anymore. So the only peeks to the outside world we get are from whatever news coverage it's mentioned they consume. So it's acknowledged that there's like a bunch of wars in the Middle East as people are fighting over resources, right? And it does make sense that if it's like Children of Men, right? It is very plausible that if people realize children can't be born anymore, that things would get chaotic pretty quickly. I'm not saying that's unreasonable or unrealistic. Brianna, what do you want? You called my name. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. I love that movie. Children of Men is a great movie. That actually might be... I was thinking, usually when we do these book clubs, I like to have a movie to pair with it. Children of Men is probably the best analog to go with this book. Although it's way better than this book. I was thinking maybe of watching a Stephen King movie tonight that feels Stephen King. Because as much as I love The Shining and we watched The Shining movie after reading The Shining book, it's not a... The Shining movie is not really a great adaptation of Stephen King's kind of art or vision. And two movies I've been wanting to watch for a while are Misery and Stand By Me. We'll do a poll at the end of the stream. Maybe we could watch one of those tonight. I know we said we'd get out of horror movies, but it would make sense to sort of bookend this film tendo. Cujo? I think it's... I don't think you spelled that right. Anyway, 20% of you read the book. What big thing did I miss from the summary? I guess the conflict going on in male world is Clint, the prison therapist, is guarding the magical woman in the prison because he's been instructed to keep her alive for long enough to prove that men just won't be killing each other, long enough for her to let the women to make a decision or vote if they want to come back. And the antagonist is this Frank character who's like an animal control guy who is, I guess, not overtly abusive to his wife and daughter, but is just like most of the men in this book, just a very shitty person who blames everyone else for his own shortcomings. That is sort of like the male archetype of this book is men who blame women or anyone other than themselves for their problems and insecurities and shortcomings. And I'm not saying that isn't a very common flaw of men, very broadly speaking, but this book has an almost comically negative portrayal of the majority of men in the book, I think. Hi, Taylor. Taylor, did you read the book? What do you think? Do you think all men are terrible and blame women for their shortcomings? I know a guy like that. I mean, everyone knows a guy like that. And every guy has a little bit of that guy in them, I think. But that's kind of just like a people thing, not just a men thing. What do you think about the length of the book? Anything you would have done without? The book is long. It looks big. It is big. I guess I read to there and then listened to the end. It is too long. It was, for a book this long, it felt super. That is the weird thing about this book. It's a long book. There are a lot of words in this book. A lot of things are said, but none of it felt very deep or profound. The whole book feels kind of superficial. I would point back to my pie example. It could have used an editor who is more willing to tell Stephen King that not everything is gold. I don't really know what his editing process typically looks like, but yeah, it could have been cut down for sure. And you know what? I heard, I think they said this in an interview, that it started as a screenplay. That originally they thought this would be like a 8-10 episode miniseries. And they said they eventually abandoned that because they thought that didn't give them enough room to develop the female characters in the book, was the specific reason given, which I kind of admire, but I think this would have been a way better a way better movie or TV series than book as well. It is written in a way where it's a lot of it's not a surprise. Like, I didn't know this until after reading the book, and it doesn't surprise me that it started as a screenplay. So it feels like there's a lot of description of things happening more than sort of thoughtful inner monologuing of various characters. On a related note, I'm getting sick of miniseries that could have been a movie. I think I agree with that. Is that a hot take? In 2019, it was the rights to it were bought by AMC, but I'm pretty sure but I have no idea where the process is now. If it comes out as a movie, I will watch it, and it would probably be good. I mean, it depends who's making it, right? Sorry, I'm a little blocked up. I can imagine it as an HBO show. Yeah, kind of like a Last of Us style. Anyway, I guess maybe the most disappointing thing is this big climax of the book of the women deciding whether or not they're going to come back to society with men is covered in just like, I don't know, maybe a page or two. And it's like, this is like an 800-page book. Or like 700. How long is this book? Got 699 pages of book. And like, we can't have 5-10 pages of the woman debating whether or not to come back to the world of men after they realize that, you know, like, basically the discussion boils down to, yeah, things are really good here without all like the misogyny we have to deal with in our daily lives. But, you know, we have some men we care about back there, and maybe we can make things better now. Women don't need to debate too long. Yeah, I guess it's just not a very nuanced book in this way, right? And there were a few parts that really are a few just throwaway lines that like really took me out. Like one point, I mean, it's not that like the authors feel this way. I guess it's told from the perspective of these men and women. But at one point, like the female police chief Lila character, when one of the women shows up in their sort of alternate reality of no men world, and the girl's like, "What's going on here? I don't understand what's happening." And she goes, "Oh, it's complicated." And then it says, like, in her head, she's going, "She thought about how men never say it's complicated." I'm just like, what? Like, men? What? Like, have you ever... Do men never tell each other something is complex or confusing to not have to explain a situation? Like, that example really sticks with me because that is just such a bizarre, like, is this just what an old man's version of how women think men are different and obnoxious of them are? I would have found the decision making more interesting if the woman had seen or known the happenings on the other side. Would have made a better discussion. But that's the thing, though. It says the as the women go to sleep in the real world, they can tell the women there what's going on in the real world to the women in this upside down world. And right before they have the vote, it is said that it is explained to them what just happened in their town back in the normal world, where the whole conflict at the prison with the bazooka and the men fighting, and I think it seems to be given, it's significant that they hear that there were men who were willing to put their own lives on the line, and men who died trying to protect the women of the prison from both the sort of vigilante gang and criminals who were trying to kill a witness that they knew was in the prison. So there was some like substantive things they could have talked about in that section, but it felt like, I want to be careful how I put this, because I don't know if it's my ignorance or this is the fault of the author, but it really feels like they've reduced this. Like, we are talking about like small town, not very educated people, right? So in that world, I suppose it makes sense that they're not having like really philosophical conversations about this decision of living with or without men. But like, am I the one who's out of touch of not thinking there's like really societies or towns that look like this? Or is the author sort of projecting his own idea of like how not sophisticated small town people are about ideas? That's kind of what I felt. What if I found that? Yeah. You need tea? Maybe I do. I need water. Here, I'm gonna start a poll and get a glass of water because I'm dying. If you are a woman, interpret that however you want. One thing the book doesn't really even consider is people who don't fit into that binary, which I don't know if it should have, because I don't think that would have been handled well anyway, but just for the sake of this question, I'm just going to assume men, women. If you are a woman, identify as a woman, would you stay in a man-less society or version of reality? Of reality. You have to decide. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Chip, chip, cheerio. I guess I should have said, please take this question seriously, because I think it's really easy to be like, yeah, men, boo. But like, let's be sincere for a second. I would hope most of you, thinking about it sincerely, wouldn't choose that. But, you know, I'm biased for I think obvious reasons. It's implied that this manless society of theirs would eventually have men in it, just from like the few women who were pregnant when they crossed over. Do the men all die in this scenario, or they never existed? They just exist in a different reality that you don't really have access to. I guess in the story there is a point at which they can cross in between. But I think the point or the thought experiment is, would you choose to live in this manless version of reality? So it's like you just woke up one day and just all the men are gone. Kind of like, what's that TV series you like, Christine? The Others? Isn't there a show where just like half of people disappeared? I hate everybody equally. That's the thing. This question is too easy if it's just, what if you could just disappear all the awful, bigoted people of the world? So men is just the shortcut that like most of our wars and violence against women is caused by men, which is true. Or at least the violence against women part, right? I think war and conflict at a more nation-state level is just a function of people being in positions of power, and that being a corrupting thing, not so much a gender thing. Yeah, can we pick which men disappear? The Leftovers. I haven't seen this show, but I remember... Christine, I think that's what you watched, that show you liked, where all those people disappear. Next month's book, by the way, Station 11, which I think will be better than this book, also has a TV adaptation. I think it was an HBO series. So I wonder if maybe December... I know Filmtendo is really about movies, but I would be up for just scheduling a watch of the TV adaptation of Station 11 after reading the book Station 11. Leftovers, yeah, 2% of people just disappear. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 2% of like 6 billion people, I guess, right? That's a number. Is that 20 million people disappear? What's 2% of 6 billion? 2%. Is Christine just making up 2%? There's no 2% memes here. That'd be 12 million. What about Hosier? Oh, you're saying like 120 million. That makes sense. Are you saying like I would live with a society without men, but I would just want to keep Hosier? the musical artist Hosier? I love Hosier. Oh, do all women love Hosier? This is interesting. So a lot of you, Hosier got to stay. All right, tell me your top 5 men you would want to stay. If you could live in a society without men, but you could pick 5 men to stay in that society, how much does that change your mind? That is the take me to church dude, Christine. But that's like a very boomer take of yours. That's just like the one first big hit single he had. Now he sings about drinking his whiskey neat. Really terrible song. Paul Mescal, Andrew Garfield, Jason Segel. Are you just naming men you're attracted to, or Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds? My dad. That's cheating. Obama. Okay, I've seen a couple Andrew Garfield. People are really... Okay, people like Andrew Garfield. This is a fun game. You know this is like me answering the question like, oh, Scarlett Johansson, Dua Lipa. Like, they just seem like nice people. You are all very thirsty people. You should go get a seltzer. Tom Holland, you know, seems like a good guy, but he's not my Spider-Man. How is no one picking Ben? I know I'm a little... Well, I mean, Ben, Andrew Garfield, and Hosier. You know, I understand. I get it. I won't take it personal. Anyway, I'm not really sure what else to say about the book. I mean, the best thing about the book were the characters. I liked the characters. I liked our doctor and police chief. And it is I did find it frustrating that they end the book like separated. Because it felt like their differences... felt like it's two people that obviously love each other, and their differences seemed very easy to overcome. So it kind of felt like maybe they just didn't want to end on too happy a note. The best thing about the book was the fox. Oh yeah, there are a few animal characters in the book that you hear the thoughts of. I thought the rats were kind of interesting. The fox thing I didn't really find that compelling. Thought it was more of a creative writing exercise than a really helpful... People love the fox, I guess. Maybe I missed out. Maybe I didn't appreciate it. I think they grew apart over years and Leela wasn't willing to put in the work to make things work. Yeah, it did seem like the wife was more to blame for their relationship failing, in a way. It does feel like sometimes maybe if you already don't like your partner or are looking for an excuse to dislike them, you'll make some pretty trivial thing feel like it's really important. Kind of feel like she was doing that. Am I broken? I'm at a party, but I wish I was home playing Fortnite. You're at a party and you're listening to this? Wait, like, you're only listening. You didn't put this on at a party, right? I mean, I think I think you're pretty normal, actually. Can't miss book club. I feel like half the people at social events are thinking they would rather not be there. But I guess here's the thing I'll ask you. Do you sometimes, even though you didn't really want to go to that party or gathering, sometimes you look back and we're actually happy you went there? That's kind of my feeling on it. You've never felt that way? Because you always love the party, Rashida? Ben, are you making a list for next year, next month? I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm just taking it 1 month at a time. I feel like this year was, especially the last few months, has just been a kind of crazy time. I'm thinking about taking a little bit of a break in general. And maybe a new year, new me kind of thing, you know? But we got a little bit of time. I hope you continue book club in stream. If not in stream, but in Discord. Sure. I mean, there's certainly a way of continuing book club with the friends you made along the way, even if I'm not streaming them. I appreciate being forced to read. It has helped me actually get through books too, especially these past 2 or 3 months. It has been hard to find the time to read. So, So yeah, I'm leaning towards continuing it in some capacity. I just don't know what that looks like and what types of books to choose. There were some pretty bad books this year. And I feel like this goes better when... Actually, you know what? But even Sleeping Beauties wasn't very good, but I just felt like made for a decent conversation, at least. When books are bad and also hard to talk about, it makes this a more stressful and onerous experience for me and you, I think. Yeah, but book selection, if we continue, book selections will be a very important thing. All right. I told you I wanted you to help me decide what movie to watch tonight. The choices were Stand By Me, Misery, or Children of Men. I was just reminding myself. We're at a pretty even split for people who would choose to live without men. That's good. I will bias you and say the one I'm most interested in watching is Misery, because that's the only one I haven't seen of the 3. What do you want to watch tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time? Misery, Stand By Me, Children of Men. All great choices. You can't go wrong. Ben, clock back tonight? I think I already put the clock back. Whatever your phone says. Children of Men, I guess, is the most on theme with the book. For anyone who hasn't seen Children of Men, you should see Children of Men. It's a very good movie. Misery is probably the least accessible movie on this list. So it's not like I'll be upset if people would rather something else. So vote how you want to vote. I didn't mean to bias you this much. I got stressed because my oven didn't change, but my phone did. That's okay. You can figure it out. You'll be. You don't need to be stressed. You can save Misery for Snow December. I think it has. Okay. So yeah, after tonight, the rest of November, I want to be foreign language films. And then December, I want to be movies that heavily feature snow. Does Misery, I don't know much about Misery at all. I just know it. A lot of people say it's the best film adaptation of a Stephen King book. So if Misery has a lot of snow in it, I'll save it. Okay, let's save it for December. So it's tonight is Stand By Me or Children of Men. So Stand By Me would just give us a very Stephen King feeling book about childhood and growing up. And Children of Men is an excellent science fiction movie about what would happen to the world if women stopped being able to have babies. Die Hard is Christmas coded? Yeah, but the December theme isn't Christmas, it's snow. Stand By Me is on Netflix. Children of Men isn't. It's a rent by only kind of thing. I mean, it is still worth watching. But yes, Stand By Me, I think, is... Anyone who has Netflix could stream it. What's the movie where the soccer team crashes and they go cannibal? It's not a very delicate way of putting that. The Society of Snow. That's a Netflix thing, right? 2 Rob Reiner picks. Stand By Me is Rob Reiner. Children of Men is Alfonso Cuarón. Wait, no. Who did Children of Men is who? Yeah, I am correct. Oh, Misery. Oh. All right, saving Misery for December. Although these snow movies can't all be horror movies, because I want The Thing on there. Thing is a great movie in snow. The original. Not the original. Kurt Russell. So we need some snow movies that aren't just horror movies. This vote's pretty close. I might have to make an executive decision. Or I might turn it to Discord, since there's only so many of you here. The Day After Tomorrow for snow movies? Yeah, I don't love that movie. I like the idea of end of the world movies, and then most of them are really not good. You know what the best end of the world movie might be? There was one with, I think, is it Clive Owen? No, not Clive Owen. He's Children of Men. Who is that 300 guy? He's usually obnoxious. He was kind of like a leading man for a while, but he's like too Australian or something. Gerard Butler. Yeah, he was in a movie called Greenland. That is actually probably the best, like, what would it actually look like if there was like an extinction level threat to the world. He's Scottish? Yeah. He's annoying, whatever he is. Anyway, Greenland is maybe the best end of the world movie I've seen. That's not like zombie-ish. The Revenant is a good winter movie. Let's add that to the snow list. 2012 is John Cusack. Yeah, no offense, but John Cusack is not a... I just don't... I have trouble accepting him as the lead of a movie. He should be the guy in the corner, like, complaining about records in a record store or something. Did you see The Northman? I did, but that is a good movie. Did that have a lot of snow in it? It sounds like it would, but I don't remember that having a lot of snow. Anyway, tonight will be one of these two movies. We will decide offline. How about that? Or maybe Uma. Uma, are you here? Uma, do you want to watch Children of Men or Stand By Me? Sometimes we need to let Uma decide. Uma or your dad? Uma or Duma? Ah, so much pressure. That's a lot of pressure, Uma. You gonna make people pay to watch Children of Men? It can't be a question mark. You need to decide. Delete that comment. Is that your decision? Can't have a question mark there. Oh, what a switch up. I don't know, Uma. People seem pretty upset. Is that your final answer? I gotta go have lunch, Uma. You're gonna watch Children of Men now without us? That's not very nice. I mean, I can't stop you. What do you mean you can't decide? You can decide. Your next comment decides. You can flip a coin. Children of Men. Okay, Children of Men tonight. 8 p.m. Does that work for you, Uma? If you need to run it by Muma and Duma. Okay, we'll see you there. All right, look out for men.